Salutations, Dreamweaver. Welcome to 10-minute marketing from the Halfpenny. In today's episode, we'll look at Disney and what makes their marketing great. So I promise in today's episode, there won't be any animated animals attempting to clean your house, and nor will you get swept off your feet by Prince Charming. Instead, we'll look at their marketing magic and try and answer why do most people love Disney. So enjoy this episode. In today's episode, we'll look at the what. So what do you love about Disney films? We'll also delve into the why and the science behind why do you love Disney films. We'll also look at how Disney makes us come back again and again. And at the end, we'll just summarize our findings. So what do you love about Disney films? We conducted a very simple Facebook poll where adults and children were asked why they love Disney films. What did they like about them? And the responses were interesting, to say the least. The most popular adult responses were nostalgia and film and character values. You'll see a picture of my favourite Disney film, Robin Hood, on this slide. I remember watching Robin Hood when I was very young and have since introduced Robin Hood as a Disney film to my children. I have to say it had a mixed response, but they enjoyed it nevertheless. Now we have a look at the children's responses. So these can be broken down into two: parents and characters. So what we're seeing here is actually why and the what behind the love of Disney films. Is their parents heavily influenced their children watching that particular Disney film? And why do you love Disney films? And this is where things get quite interesting. The answer is actually in the science and how our minds work. So we'll delve into that next. So here we see an illustration of a human brain. At the top, we have our cortex, which is where our learning functions are held. And at the bottom, in the brain stem, that's all about safety. However, in the middle of all of this is something called the limbic system, which governs our emotions and our experiences linked to those. So within the limbic system sits the part of the brain which represents the region in charge of the affective system, which is responsible for many of our judgments, such as discerning between good and bad, safe and threatening, and friend and foe. In every Disney story, we see a hero and a villain. We align ourselves to the good, and this allows us to feel safe and protected by that character. Makes sense. There's another region of the limbic system. It's a structure found at the heart of the forebrain and is responsible for emotion processing. And these emotions range, but I've given a few examples here, such as fear, sadness, disgust, happiness, and pleasure. And we experience these range of emotions when we're watching a Disney film. In parts, they make us happy or sad. We fear for the safety of the hero. And of course, we all love a happy ending. We build a bond with these characters on the screen, hero and villain, and emotionally connect with the film through the plot, the characters, the songs and their soundtracks contained within the film. So how does Disney make us come back again and again? What makes us come back can be easily split into 4 separate compartments. We have life lessons. Children watch the trials and sacrifices of the hero involved and learn from them. That makes sense. What children experience, they take on, interpret it, and learn from that experience. Emotional connections. In the why, we already know that Disney films connect with us, and this stays with us into adulthood. So I was introduced to Robin Hood when I was younger. That film stayed with me over time into adulthood, and now I pass on that experience of watching Robin Hood to my own children. And this is what we call a cycle. So think about your favourite Disney film, one that you got introduced to when you were younger. And have you introduced that film to your children or your nieces and nephews? Therefore, the cycle can continue. With each passing generation, Disney engages with a new audience. Not necessarily because of Disney's new film, but the fact that the emotional connection the parents had to that film in the first place has now been passed down to the next generation. So, parental influence. As I've already discussed, as an adult, we grew up with Disney films, and naturally we want to pass these emotional connections on to our children. Escapism. This is for the adults in the room, the parents, the non-parents, the working families. Life is extremely busy. You could say we're of the generation now that's probably most at risk from mental illnesses such as stress, depression, anxiety. And there's no better, for me personally, no better way to spend some downtime in terms of watching a film. You can get completely lost and you can put your adult life on hold for those couple of hours and just be thankful for that distraction that that film has brought. So what do we know now? Disney works hard to deliver beloved experiences to both children and parents through connecting them to characters on an emotional level through the limbic system. They ensure that the stories they tell remain relevant over time, so they can be passed from generation to generation. I'll give you a couple of examples. So Robin Hood, one of my favourite films growing up, is rooted in English folklore. It's around a 14th century story. This is when Robin Hood first appeared, and has continued to be produced in lots of mediums, whether that's films or theatre or TV. And it has a moral to the story. Robin Hood stole from the rich to give to the poor. The moral is simply to share wealth to overcome poverty. And that story remains relevant today. We take another example, another one of my favourite Disney films, The Lion King. The Lion King teaches us around certain life lessons which children naturally can pick up on. So we have the circle of life. We are all born, we all pass away. It's fact. We have the romance between Simba and Nala. Relationships are good, and relationships, friendships, relationships, they matter whether you're a child, whether you're a teenager, or whether you're an adult. And probably most famously, Hakuna Matata, which is really about addressing stress-related mental illnesses such as anxiety or depression. Great marketing teams create great customer experiences. And they tell this through film, through the relevant merchandise, through soundtracks, through theme parks. They're all connected. And they tell engaging stories. And this is what makes Disney so successful. Not only do they do that very well, they do it in a way where their marketing teams rely on the customer, they rely on the viewer, they rely on us to ensure that the cycle continues and parents and adults pass down their own experiences of Disney films to the next generation. Thank you for listening to this 10-minute marketing episode by The Halfpenny. If you do need any marketing advice, just get in touch. Visit the website at www.thehalfpenny.co.uk.